Look at that. It's going to try to cut me. It's going to try to cut me in half. Hello, everybody. See if I can get this camera back a little further. There we go. Try not to get anybody's head cut off. Check it out. Oh, look, I have the perspective from this angle.
You've got it right.
Yes.
You've got it right.
I don't look short.
Well, looks are deceiving.
All right, guys, is the audio working? Somebody please give me an audio check because me and Steve being in the same room, we can't test each other's. So let me know. Let me know that audio is working. Somebody give me a thumbs up or something.
They say audio is great. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
So welcome, guys. Steve's in Alabama. We don't have any snow, and luckily he didn't bring any with him.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let Steve open it up and kind of give you guys an update of his trip so far. He's been doing a lot of driving, and I've been trying to chauffeur him around since he showed up here in Alabama. But there you go, Steve. Tell him how it's been.
Yeah, no, I left not so sunny Minnesota yesterday to the joyous snow and sleet. I actually had, where they say ice forms on bridges before roadways. That was happening. I almost got twisted off one bridge and almost hit a turkey because it's spring opener, even though it's snowing up there. But no, I drove a good 12 hours yesterday to get most of the way, and then another 4 hours today, and happy to be in sunny green central Alabama.
Yeah, and so far everything is green. You thought I was joking?
Oh no, I knew. I've been down here to southern Georgia this time of year, and so I knew it would be green. And the bad part is going back, and instead of gradually seeing the nicer spring weather and the green, as I go back, things start looking more and more brown.
It's like you're traveling back in time. Back to winter.
So that's going to be something. Well, here's the thing though. It was warming up, even though it was snow. The grass was starting to grow a little bit. By time I get home, I'm hoping that it's a little nicer, maybe even flirting with needing to mow the lawn or something, but it'll happen.
Well, on your way back, in case you aren't able to cut your grass when you get home, if you want to swing back by on your way back, I'll let you cut mine.
Sure.
That would be, that would be helpful.
So I might just head to Europe.
But yeah, hello, Chris. Hey, Brian's back, by the way. I know you missed him. I mean, y'all's bromance just got disrupted for a week.
He's the one who bailed on us last week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Brian, I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way because Steve has made a point. And I should have, let me get where's my little pocket camera at? We were taking some pictures earlier, guys, and Steve's already a good bit taller than me. Now, he said that he might make me feel short, but he underestimated my arrogance. But he is a good bit taller than me, so we're not exactly breathing the same air when we're standing next to each other. But I actually caught him earlier today trying to put me like down the hill from him when we were taking a picture. And I looked in the view screen and I looked like a midget standing next to him. And he was trying to manipulate the angle. And I'm going to try to see if I can get that picture to pull up.
I just stopped walking and you kept going. And so I blame you. You were the one who put the angle there.
But he did get to have some Southern cuisine, which he opted for barbecue baked potato, wasn't it? Wasn't that what they called it? Loaded potato?
Yeah, loaded potato.
Yeah,
we pulled pork and barbecue sauce and cheese and all the good stuff.
We went to Peach Park today and got some lunch as soon as we got here. We went ahead and got that. And then just a little while ago, we went to a little hamburger place and grabbed us some, I guess you could call it kind of supper, afternoon snack or whatever, so that we wouldn't be hungry during the live. And it was one of those, I try to take it to places that he doesn't have up there up north. He did not bring me a pizza from the lumber store. I was a little disappointed in that, but
I mean, Menard's pizza is something. I'll bring it next time, I guess. But you have some cardboard here. I'm sure we could just slap some sauce and cheese on there. It'd be about the same.
Yeah. So we gotta, and we did. I mean, we've talked a lot of business, and we've talked a lot about the channel and things that are going on, and I'm trying to figure out a way of getting to participate with Steve in some of this upcoming events that he's headed to. So we'll see how that works out. I've got some personal stuff with the family that I've got to take care of this week, and can't go right away. But I may try to go down and kind of chill out with him maybe some this weekend. And he's saying that that's when things can get real fun. Anyway, as far as like, I guess they bring more stuff.
So the event I'm going to, yeah, it's a model airplane event. It's all electric, and it started out as like a extended weekend event, and then people just kind of kept coming earlier in the week, and so then they made it on their 10th anniversary. They made it a week long event, and that just supports a lot of the pilots come, but a lot of the like the industry people and more of the people that are coming just for the core event, they come like Thursday, Friday, Saturday time frame. So that'll be when it's kind of hopping the most, kind of just of course pending weather. There's midweek, it looks like it might be a little rainy, but tomorrow and then also later in the week it's looking pretty good. And so
yeah, I found that picture that you got me with too. I'm fixing to try to load that in. But yeah, we'll make sure we're not missing any questions. I know we're talking a lot, guys, but you got to understand, like I said, me and Steve have been, this is the first face-to-face we've ever had. And it's something that, like I said, a week as it persists, you're also going to be going down to, was it a glimpse in, what is it, a glimpse?
So yeah, my friend Chris at A Glimpse Inside, I've been in touch with him as well. Told him, hey, I'm going to be within 3 hours of you, so if it works out, I'd love to swing by and hang out for a day. Because he and I've been, again, internet friends. I mean, we've talked on the phone, we've talked online, we've emailed back and forth, all that stuff, and for years. But thought, hey, if I'm traveling, well, I don't know what, 18, 19, 20 hours down to southern Georgia, what's another 3 to go visit him in northern Florida? So I'm going to try to swing on down and see him for a couple days before heading back as well. So it's a lot of fun stuff with this trip. So will just knocking on wood that the weather and the roads continue to be nice to me. So
Steve, Super Duty saying cute couple. He's gonna make Brian jealous.
Well, so but yeah, we do have some questions here, and so we should definitely jump into some of those as well. I think the first one I'm seeing here is, how do you engrave glass? And depends on what type of laser you have. If you have a CO2, you can actually engrave it without any preparation, although a lot of people like to coat it with just a little bit of a water and Dawn mixture to kind of keep some of the fracturing from sticking, and it gives you a cleaner surface. But if you're working with a diode laser, the UV light will normally just transfer straight through. And so on one of those, you're going to need to put a binder with it. So most common of that was going to be something like tempera paint, a nice dark black. Other people will use like you can use the laser marking spray, Surmark, or Brilliance marking spray. Some people will use regular spray paint as well, and then you got to clean it off with a chemical that's going to remove that. But you need some sort of binder. In some cases, you can even use like just a green tape or something. You need something for that beam to interact with to get the etch, and from there, then you need to set your power settings to find where you're going to get a nice, clean, smooth etch without adding so much heat that it starts to actually fracture and splinter. So still a little bit of a balance, but you got to figure out what's the binder that works best for you.
Yeah. Unless it's like I said with the CO2, it's a little more forgiving, a little more freedom there. But there's my sister apparently is in here. Well, hello there, Trey and Kim. Big shout out to my brother-in-law Trey there for the air conditioner install too. By the way, Steve made it just in time. We actually do have climate control now, so it's not going to get too hot or too cold in here today, and it seems to be working well. So big shout out to my brother-in-law there, and I try to get him to give me the name of his business, but I don't know if he has one. But if you're in Central Alabama and need somebody for that, then hit me up. And hello there, Mark. I don't know if it's the Mark Patterson that I know, or do you know Mark Patterson? Maybe that they may be talking to you. No, Brian. I tried talking him into the gas station chicken. We went by the place that has the best chicken livers around, and no matter how many times I said the word chicken liver, his expression didn't really change. And so I decided we would stick with the traditional Milo's hamburger. And that's kind of a regional restaurant that are famous for their sweet tea, which Steve didn't partake of the sweet tea, but he did try the unsweet tea. So, Aaron, I thought I had answered your questions, but spruce, pine, cedar, cypress, all of those trees are very sappy. You will get some like gases and some vapors off of it that are probably going to dirty your nozzle a little bit, especially the yellow pine. It is very sappy, and that sap gets vaporized, and then as it cools, it will collect on the nozzle. But as far as it being any more lethal or fatal or more of an irritant, I don't, as far as I know, there's nothing more worse than just regular plywood. I mean, I would think the plywood actually would be worse than the pine because of the
Yeah.
glues and stuff. So
Yeah. So I mean, depending on your pine, especially you have one that might be a little sappier or wetter, that's definitely going to give you a little more of that burning and that darker smoke and such coming out of it. So
yeah,
it's not my favorite to use. I mean, I would rather use a poplar or a cedar over pine and spruce, just because it does tend to have that kind of, both the grain can be an issue in getting a smooth engrave, and also just kind of that dirtier
yeah,
after effect. But I wouldn't put it in any more dangerous than any of, and as you said, plywood, you're burning through whatever glues and resins are in there as well. It wouldn't be any worse than your typical craft plywood that you're
yeah. Because I
doing
mean, you
it.
never know what they're using in
It
those glues.
the biggest thing that I would be concerned of, especially if it's like construction grade stuff, is it might not be as dry as your typical craft plywood and such. There could be some water content to that, and that could cause some additional issues. But as far as hazardous, as far as fumes, I I don't have any concerns over it. But as I said, I also don't go out of my way to use it.
Yeah, and and vent some more. So if your venting is working properly, hopefully you breathing it's not going to be a concern anyway. Of course, it's not a bad idea to be conscious of it, but
Yeah.
if your ventilation is correct, then regardless of what you're burning, you should still be good.
I mean, ideally, no matter what you're cutting, hopefully your ventilation system, you're not smelling it in any way.
Yeah.
And so it shouldn't be an issue. But that being said, I mean, there's a lot of people who say, well, I can deal, when people talk about, you know, cutting vinyl, it's okay because I got a ventilation system. I'm like, but what's on the other side of that ventilation system?
Yeah.
So, the same thing here, even if you're just venting out, normal smoke from wood and such, it's good to be a good neighbor to an extreme. If you're really close, you're living, tight
Especially like
neighborhood,
in an
and
apartment complex.
yeah,
I
you
mean,
don't
that
want to
could
be
be
pumping
bad.
that in where they've got their window open and such. But, but
It
yeah,
wouldn't be an issue here necessarily, except for the
no,
birds. Jim's got a question about the LM3. Says it's getting off timing. I never had any problems with mine. What are your thoughts on that?
no, I would be looking to see if there's some sort of binding on an alignment issue. If something is, if they're popping off but they're not loose, then something has got to be out of alignment. I'm just trying to think back to mine though. There's not. Um, is it the belt actually slipping off, or is it the pulley actually slipping on the stepper or something? I guess that would be a clarification, but.
I'm not seeing any further on that. I'm trying to scroll down through here and see.
Because if the pulley that's on the stepper motor, if those screws work loose, it can be tight and work up until it gets just enough resistance, and then it starts slipping where the motor's moving, but the pulley isn't, and then it's not engaging the belt, and that could cause it to be off versus actually the belt coming loose from it. So
yeah, and sometimes the little sprockets actually have two of the grub screws.
Yep.
And I had one the other day where one of the grub screws was actually fairly tight, but the other one wasn't, and it was letting it slip inside the the pulley for the belt. So
Yeah.
even though if you put a wrench on it and turn it, it felt tight, but there was two of them, and without both of them being tight, it didn't trap it in there the way it needed to. Uh, I don't remember if the LM3 has the rod. I'm fairly the rule of thumb is if it only has one stepper, then chances are it's going to have the rod. And I don't remember, to be honest with you. Mine's not sitting here to look at if the LM3 had two or if it only had one. But I'm thinking the LM3. I think it only had one stepper motor. But you may want to look at that and see.
Yeah, I could tell you where mine's at, but I can't look at it right now.
Yeah, mine's not handy either, so it would take a minute to figure that out. But yeah, somebody else was asking about power settings for engraving something glass. Was it?
Oh yeah, about where to start at with that. With an Acer P20, I think it was.
With the P20, that's going to depend heavily on the effect that you're wanting to have. The thing with glass, guys, one is don't go too hot with glass because if you go too hot with glass, it will chip and you can crack it. I had a wine glass I was doing the other day. And I was doing it with which machine was that? The 30 watt Atom Stack, and it actually it caused just enough heat and heated up that little tiny spot of that wine glass just enough that it actually fractured the glass. So with glass, I would start off low and work my way up until I found the setting that worked best, and then just stop there. Because if you go too hot, you're going to start messing with the integrity, and even if it doesn't break while you're engraving it, you could cause it to later on when somebody goes to wash it or uses it and it gets cold from the beverage or whatever, it could fracture then. So, but speed test, guys. I mean, that's my thing is because not all glass is the same. Cheap glass actually engraves better, in my opinion, than the more expensive glass. I don't know if you had an experience with that as far as like Dollar Tree glass versus really expensive glass, maybe like Dollar Tree versus Target glass.
So the bulk of my glass has been actually on my CO2 laser, and the bulk of it was actually engraving shadow boxes. And there again, they're not using expensive glass, but yeah, that engraved really well versus trying to engrave some glass goblets or things like that, where it's that just I was having more frustration with the jig and the rotary I was using at the time. So no, I haven't really tried too many different grades of glass on that, but yeah, I definitely keeping it lighter power as possible. And in some cases, and this is more with the CO2, I would actually defocus it a little bit. So you got kind of a wider, softer beam than a real fine point beam. And that created a little bit more of a softer frosting to it as well. Those are just a couple of things I tried with it.
But. Yeah, you told me about that the other day, and I think that's a good idea. To be honest with you, I never thought about it. Being able to, because you're gonna spread that beam over a wider area, decreasing the chance of that fracture. So I'm gonna actually try that in my next my next glass engrave that I do, because I remember that day I was telling you about it. Oh yeah, that definitely sounds like a good alternative. LM3 is not on the wall, Chris. My buddy Klein is currently using the LM3 with the 20 watt Comgrow. He's helping me on a couple of jobs, and I've got him. He's got it. He's currently has custody of it, so it's not here with me right now. And I don't know if Klein's in here. If he is, maybe he'll go look and tell you if it has the connecting rod. But currently, I don't have it in my custody. So
I think this one's for me. So I have actually assembled and put together and been testing the SculptFun S30 Pro Max. No, the S30 Pro. Anyway, it's their 20 watt version of that. And I shot most of the video. I have it with me. So I'll be working on editing in my downtime on this trip. So it may actually drop in a few days, assuming that I don't go through the edit and go, wow, I really messed that up and need to go fix it. But the sneak preview of it is, I was very pleasantly surprised with the cutting ability, and it did still engrave fairly well. So yeah, keep an eye out for that soon. But they also have recently announced their 30 watt version in the line, and I'm trying to remember which one. There's the Pro Max. They have their whole S30 line. there's like the 5 watt, the 10 watt, the 20 watt, now the 30 watt. So that'll be interesting to see, if that one then adds the same level of power. So I've also been working on my Atom Stack review, and I had the pleasure of looking at the 20, the A20 Pro, and now the X30. It's the X30, right?
It's A30.
A30 Pro.
The same one I got, right?
Yeah.
A30.
And so they're almost identical machines. Just one's the 20 watt module, one's the 33 watt module. And so once I get that video out, I'll be able to kind of show, hey, here's where the 20 watt cut on this material versus the 33 watt. And so I went through like 3 millimeter Baltic birch, and then some of your typical 1/4 inch material, and then looking at how it can cut as well. So I'll be, I would expect in the SculptFun laser kind of the same, 25-30% increase in cutting ability too. So
yeah, they the Atom Stack, like I said, I was impressed with it, and I did find out too that I think even the A and the X series Atom Stacks, I don't know what the difference is, but apparently it's not the feet. Because I had some people tell me that they use the jig kit and they have the A and they have the X and I have the A, listed.
yeah.
But apparently the machines are very similar.
Yeah, no, Atom Stack has not changed their frame in quite a while for a lot of their machines. And I think it was more maybe the color of the frame as well as possibly the air pump that came with it. But they're almost identical otherwise. So
yeah. Trying to get caught up, guys. Debbie's wanting to know if you passed on the chicken livers.
I did pass on the chicken livers, and so I've been down here. I've been down south before, and I've partaken of many things, including sweet tea. I got to pace myself with that. I'm not a big sugary drink person in general. I mean, if you see me drinking a soda, most people be like, "You feeling all right?"
Yeah.
So
you did drink some coffee. What was it? This morning or yesterday morning?
Yeah.
During the drive,
I did have some coffee. So I do. I'll do have caffeine. Between the tea I have or coffee, I'll have some caffeine. But no, I'm not a super sweet drink kind of person anyway. But I do. I will have some of it on this trip. But with all the other carby full things we had today, I was like, I'll have my straight tea.
Well, you got your calories for today. So I mean,
got my calories, got my carbs, got everything. Yep.
Yeah. Brian, as far as I know, he's still doing good. He's turned out a few jobs on his own. Like I said, he's working as my overflow, especially with like one-offs and stuff like that, because he's really wanting to learn, and so far he seems to be having fun with it. He hasn't brought the machines back yet. He's actually got a few of my machines. He's got a total of 3 of my machines on loan for using them, and he's supposed to report back to me any issues or anything like that, because let's face it, guys, I can't run all these machines at one time. But somebody like him, he can take it and use it, and if there's a problem, he can bring it back. We can troubleshoot it and put out an update, let you guys know what's going on with the machines. But so far, the LM3 with the ComGrow head still working great. He has the Niji, it's working great, and he's also running the ASMR P1 with the rotary, and hadn't any complaints with it. He actually just did a job for some tumblers for a wedding, and the customer was really happy with the product and got those turned out. So he's coming along. I'm going to put him to work this summer as the summer persists. He's going to keep getting put to work. And he's actually making a little bit of money for a change, so he was happy about that. I think he's saving for a couple of power tools right now. So he's got some wants and some needs, and I think he's working on getting his needs taken care of. And then he's got a couple of dream machines he wants to buy. So, but yeah, Brian, like I said, I got into this stuff to try to help people, and like I said, I've been knowing this guy for a long time. He's a good guy. He's a school teacher, so. Just like myself, working for the government, and Steve works for the government, but I think, he's a lot higher position than some of us, but working for the government, pays not always the thing that drives people to get in these careers. So, when I can help somebody have a hobby and, not cost them as much money, that's a good thing too. And it helps me because he can come back and report to me any issues that arise with the machine, because these guys that are up here, I do get them down and use them on projects. but it's not every single day. So that's a big help. There's your Professor Steve.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I do work for a community college, but I'm the IT director there, so I don't teach.
But you look like a professor.
I support them all. But yeah, no, I do appreciate it because education is part of my lineage. My mom and my grandmother were both uh, educators, and I enjoy that too. I like helping people figure things out. I like being able to teach things and share knowledge and such. So, but yeah, it's not being a public college. We are state employees. There are some benefits such as vacation time, so I can come down here.
Yeah, pay's not always the highest priority on the list of things that governments do, though.
It's not, but yeah, so it's.
But hey, we're glad to have him. Like I said, it's cool. And Jerry Springer has joined the group. Apparently, it's not that Jerry Springer, but welcome, Jerry. But Kim is saying that she bought the OMTech CO2 and should be here first week of May. Any tips, tricks? I don't know which CO2. I don't know what power output, but
so with OMTech is better at it than others, but you want to unpack everything carefully. Look for anything that's loose. You want to double check. In some cases, I'm not sure how OMTech does it, but sometimes you have to install the laser tube on some of the larger lasers.
That would not be good.
which adds a layer to it. But usually, like they're 60 watt. Okay, she said 60 watt. Those usually are installed, but you do want to check it and make sure that nothing was damaged in shipping. And then just go through everything as you can. Make sure things are moving smoothly. You don't want to like whip the gantry around, but make sure that it moves smoothly without binding. And as best as you can, go in and just check wiring. Make sure there's nothing obviously loose.
Would you recommend doing the tape test for the mirrors, just in case something got bumped, and that way the laser doesn't like damage wiring or anything like that? Just in case.
So yeah, I mean, you could do the tape test on the mirrors. So basically, you start at the front one or the mirror one, which is right off your tube. You make sure that it's firing pretty much in the center of the mirror. You move to mirror 2, do the same thing. Make sure it's firing center, and then the third one. It's not a bad idea to do. My experience is it's rare. Usually they're close. If you get really lucky, you don't need to do an alignment, but that's going to be the thing you're going to want to learn first is how do you align your mirrors?
Yeah.
Because whether it's in the alignment right away or not, you're going to do it at some point. But once you've looked through it mechanically and electrically, you do need to load up however you have your cooling going through it. And I like to, you're going to want to use distilled water for sure. And then you'll want to, I strongly recommend you go and get some algicide from, like, if you got a pet store, they have that anti-algae kind of ad that you can just a couple drops of that in there. And then just get like 1 or 2 drops of like dish soap in there. Get that into whether you got a chiller or whether you got just the bucket with the pump, and start circulating your water through there. Look for any leaks, but that needs to fill up your tube, come all the way through, and then what you're going to notice is that there's probably 1 million bubbles formed through that. And so as that water flows through, it'll start working out all those air bubbles. You really want to have very few to no air bubbles. I mean, you'll get some micro ones, but if you have like a really large air bubble and they tend to like either be at the inlet or the outlet, those are bad. That's going to be a hot pocket of air. It's going to cause it to get hot right there. And that's where you're going to risk, cracking and such.
So I'm going to ask this question in hopes that I'm right. But when I've just recently got the chiller, or what we've determined is actually just a radiator.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it the cooling add-on for the Monport. And I'd heard everybody's talking about the different antifreezes, and I looked at, of course, some of Rich's videos and some of the other places, and I went to Walmart and got myself some RV antifreeze, because my shop is, well, I guess it's technically in a controlled environment now, but not always am I going to have the heat on.
Right.
So with depending on the application, I would imagine if it's in your house or in your basement, it's probably not a concern. But like with me, with it being an external building, there is a chance that it could get down to freezing in here. So is that something? What do you run with yours? I know because one of your
Yeah.
machines is outside, right?
Well, it's in my outside shop, which is insulated very well, and I do run some heat in there in the winter. So my shop, there's been a couple times in the coldest points of winter where I've gone out there and I see that the low rating on the temperature has gotten down to freezing. Um, so in mine, since I've had it, I've run straight water, and then I've run a mixture of RV antifreeze and distilled water. And you're looking for the water. It's the RV antifreeze that you would put in your water system. So you would it's there to keep your pipes and any sort of tanks that might not get fully drained from freezing. But it's also safe that once you rinse it out, it's not leaving any hazardous chemicals to you. Now, the reason that works well in the lasers is that if you use regular antifreeze in there, that actually adds conductivity to the water, which you don't want in your laser tube. Whereas this, it's going to add some over straight distilled water, but it's much lower. So yes, it kind of gives you a bit of an effect of having a little lower freeze point for that water, without causing possible electrical issues with your tube.
Yeah.
The other thing that I do in there is when I know it's going to be really, really cold, I leave the chiller on
To keep the
because
water
that keeps
circulating.
circulating water. Running water doesn't freeze as quickly as still stationary water.
Yeah.
And it also helps. Actually, I've noticed that if I leave my chiller off and it's winter and the shop gets down to 45 degrees, I'll come out and the chiller, I'll turn it on, is reading the water temp at like 6 or 8 degrees Celsius, right?
That's cold.
That's
My
cold.
water never gets that cold here.
Right. But just by the fact of turning that on and letting it circulate through the machine, it starts coming up,
Well,
closer to
you would
15,
think
16.
too.
So,
The fan is electric. Electric fans or the pump rather. The pump is electric.
yep.
Electric pumps are going to generate heat because they're burning electricity. So,
Mhm.
I mean, even that little bit, I mean, is actually probably would warm the water up a little bit. I mean, you would think it would have the opposite effect and cool it down, but it is actually generating heat that
Well,
wasn't there before.
and at that point, it's not actively cooling the water. So yes, it's moving it through the
Yeah.
system. That fan there's things that are helping to heat it up, but it's
Yeah.
more of getting that water moving is going to get any more transference of heat.
Cool.
So
But
yeah, it's I would check it mechanically. I'd check it as best you can electrically, and then start getting the water through there, and check for any leaks. Make sure you get any air bubbles out, and then at that point, then do your mirror check, and
Yeah.
from there start working with it. So.
Yeah, but one thing too that I'd like to add, my experience with the Monport, go through there and make really sure there's not any little blocks of styrofoam shoved anywhere that are going to cause a problem. Because the Monport that I got, it actually when they packaged it, and I know why they did it. They did it in case the tube was to shift. They didn't want it to hit anything, but there was actually pieces of styrofoam in places that had I fired the laser, I don't know that it would have hurt anything, but it definitely would have melted styrofoam. And melting styrofoam, as Steve will tell you, is not one of those things you want to be breathing a lot of.
Yeah.
So just make sure you pull all those little pieces of styrofoam out from everywhere. Because mine had them on the X and Y axis, and it had them just poked everywhere. So.
Yeah. So the really bad because I'm drawing a blank on the type of foam it is, but it's like a Kaizen type foam
Really thick.
that rubbery thick foam.
Yeah,
that actually has it's like more of it's a PVC type style to it, whereas like EPS or EVA does not, and that's safer to cut. But you definitely, if that's the type of foam that's in that laser and you fire it through it, you're putting out some
probably
nasty
not
fumes.
not something you want to be huffing on.
Yeah,
and if you're working on it, you got your head over in it. So, but yeah, well, thank you there, Kim. But she said she has a laser at 2200 watts. Woo. What? That's 2200 watts, but smaller. Maybe that's a typo. Is it 200? A 2200 watt would be huge. Not sure if you mean it. Do you have a 2200 watt CO2?
Maybe that's the work one.
I was going to say, where do you work at? That would be a beast. I bet that would cut 1 inch wood.
Well, you're starting to get into some metal territory there too. So,
That's probably going to require 3-phase.
Yeah. So, Jack, when you're wanting to run Lightburn on two different machines at the same time, what you want to do is when the first one's set up and running, minimize that and then go to your desktop and open up a new instance of Lightburn, and then you should be able to select the second machine in there. If you try to do it in the first one, it's going to try to connect to that new one, and it might drop the connection. So just make sure you're running a second instance there, and it should allow you to work with that.
Yeah, Kim says they own a laser cutting company.
Yeah.
So
Then
that's
definitely.
that's a big boy machine there.
Yeah, that sounds like some James Bond stuff.
Yeah. We cut 1/4-inch titanium. What do you want? Yeah, that would be a beast. I don't know that my power grid here would support a 2200 watt machine without my own diesel generation plant. But that's cool. That would be an interesting operation to see, for sure. Good evening there, Ole Crafter. Hadn't seen you around in a while. Where you been hiding at? Or you just been hiding and not saying a whole lot? Okay, got you another one. Well, they're coming in pretty quick now. That's a light burner thing. I'm pretty sure all the lasers do it. Some of them are really, really quick with when you hit the fire laser. I don't know what it is. I had what was it, the A30 the other day. It only stays on for like so many seconds, and there may be a setting for that. And I think Steve's fixing to tell us where that's at.
No, I'm not sure, but I have noticed this. Yeah, and I'm not sure what the timing is, but yeah, if you hit the fire button to turn it on and you leave it sit for a certain amount of time, it will turn off.
Yeah. I want to say it's probably not even 10 seconds.
It's not too. Yeah, it's not too quick. I mean, it's not too long. So, but as far as current position, so is this like you're just?
No, I think the timer's getting him.
Yeah,
because he's saying when he fires, he says when he fired, he's noticed that the eights when using current position or firing the laser spot, it just quit and turn off suddenly. I think what it is the timer's getting him, and he's thinking it's because he's moving the laser. But James, I am fairly confident that is a time setting somewhere in Lightburn. I'm highly suspicious that it is probably a safety setting. So because like the 30, I don't know if you played with the A30, but if you put it on 1%, it will actually mark material at 1% output. So you have to go down to like 0.25 to keep it from marking. Because I the first job I did, I had it set to frame at like 1%, and I was doing the 1/4-inch Luan, and it made a square when it framed, and I was like, well, that's no good. But if you'll look, guys, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a timing thing with Lightburn. I'm fairly confident it's a safety feature, and I'm not sure there's any way to extend that time. But if it goes out, if you'll hit the button again and then hit it the second time, it'll come back on. But you have to kind of do what you're going to do and get done. And I'll play around with that. And I guess when you get a chance, if you got some time, and maybe we can figure out where that setting's hiding, if that's something that we can change without having to go into the software coding or
whatnot. I mean, I would be careful changing it because you would not want to leave that on.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to stay on too long.
But it should be long enough that you can do some basic positioning. If it's going off too quickly, then that could be a thing. But
yeah, with the A30 the other day, I was trying to line something up, and I was doing it by hand, and it just kept going off. But luckily, I think it was Klein that was here with me, and I was like, "Hey, hit the fire button again," and so he would unclick it, click it again, it would come back on for. It's probably around, I'm gonna say, probably close to 10 seconds. It was going. I didn't time it, but I think it kind of felt like maybe 10 seconds, and then it would go off, and then you had to cycle it to get it to come back on. So pretty sure that's a Lightburn setting there, James. I don't think you have a problem with your machine. But you can test that theory and just don't touch it and set it and do a timer if you want and get back with us and let us know how long it stays on for. But it seems like it's going to be around 10 seconds to me. 3/8-inch Lexan? Boy, that would be nice. Cut 3/8-inch Lexan. It's pretty impressive.
So Anthony is asking, what is the max speed for the Aether?
Ooh.
Do you remember?
I don't know what the max speed is because I've never ran it that fast. Because I mean, there comes a point to where you're just moving the laser.
The advertised maximum speed is like 24,800 millimeters a minute.
Yeah, but you'd have to have like a 4,000 watt diode to mark material at that.
Right. That's not necessarily the practical speed for it.
Yeah, I can't say exactly what the maximum moving speed of it is, but I can say that anything over about 250 to 300, unless it's a really, really, really soft material, you're not going to be doing a whole lot of marking. You're just kind of traveling. Uh, I've done speed tests on material up to 300 millimeters per second with the 30-watt machines, and at even with this Poplar based Luon at 300 millimeters per second, which would be 18,000. Math's not my strong suit. 300 millimeters per second is about the point to where it just really doesn't leave a mark on wood. So I don't know what the max is because the laser just I haven't had a material that could go that high on. He said, "Is Brian saying they advertise it at over 24,800 and it millimeters per minute, which would be divided by 60 for probably 400 and something." Yeah, math's not my strong suit, guys.
Yeah,
I do lasers, not math equations.
just over
But
400.
yeah, I think this is gonna be just over 400. But you're not gonna be marking much unless you're like engraving, I don't know, cupcake ice cream or ice cream or something like that, maybe, because it's not gonna leave a mark on wood much over 300 millimeters per second. So. Yeah, and Mark, and the faster you start moving to, you start ending. One thing that I did learn is with engraving, you start going to try to go too fast. You have to limit the size of your work area because with that added speed comes that added deceleration buffer around your design on the over travel. And so the faster you go, technically your image gets bigger as far as the machine is concerned. And at some point, your image is going to have to start shrinking to keep the machine from hitting the limits as it over travels for deceleration after the burn. So that's why I think 300. I think 300 is probably the fastest you could go practically. Anything faster than that, I think you're going to start causing too many issues. What do you think? I mean, have you?
Yeah, no, I mean that's at the size of the working area of these machines, it's moving pretty quickly at that speed, and like you mentioned, the time for it to decelerate and turn around, it needs on top of that, and it's just not. I can't think of the practical application for it.
Like I said, unless you're doing like cake icing or something, maybe.
Even that, it takes, I've played around with it, engraving sugary items and pies and cakes and such, and it still takes a little bit of power and speed to get that, caramelization going and such. So it kind of gets into this is your white space movement where you would need that, but even that can introduce some issues. So
yeah.
I think it's kind of getting to the point where, like, yes, it technically can go that fast, but there's not many practical applications for it to go that fast.
Yeah, and the risks of damaging your machine, the potential for fuzzy lines because it's over travels kind of getting to it. Yeah, I don't see a need in it. I know these guys like to advertise that their machine is capable of these mind bending speeds, but if you can't engrave at that speed, it's really not doing you a whole lot of good. Like you said, except for white space scan, but I mean, how much is too much? At some point, you kind of got to let it slow down a little. But I don't guess I missed anything. Did I miss anything? Chris said that's going to be 1-inch overscan.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think I'm joking, but when I ran that speed test on the A30 the other day, I run it at 400, and I swear I think it was about an inch because it kept telling me that it couldn't engrave it because based on my speed settings, the over travel was going to cause it to reach the boundaries. And I'm like, and it wasn't really that big of an engrave, but it did affect the process. Let's see. I hear advertising 54-800. I mean, it may go that fast. I just don't know that it's necessary to go that fast. With because the output you would have to even leave a mark would be pretty insane.
Yeah, I remember when I got the Ortura Laser Master 3, and they were advertising what was it, like 20, it was at least 20,000 millimeters a minute or faster, and I was like, what would you? And so I ran it up at that speed, and it was scary because that little head was flying around.
Yeah,
but I
hope it doesn't come loose.
Yeah, it wasn't really doing anything other than just whipping around real fast. So I mean, it's impressive to see it and seeing that it can still keep where it's trying to engrave in that spot, but it was so light that it was impractical. So I'm not sure with 54-8 where that's practical at all. The fact that it can do it, awesome, but it's kind of an unneeded feature that it's like, okay, well, I hope that was just because that's what the parts can do and not something you actually like was a goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things, just because you can do something, it's not necessarily mean it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So let's see, who was it a while ago? I saw somebody said hashtag Maynard's over here.
Well, there were some comments about finding some 1/8 inch.
I thought he was ordering a pizza.
No, it's carry out only.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
They don't deliver?
No.
That'd be nice if I could like deliver your 2x4 wall studs and then your pizza and
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't even know that they do. I don't think they ever even did curbside delivery. I think you could order online and pick up in store, but even then they charge you an extra fee for it. I was like, well, I'm just going to walk in the store and you're going to make me do it anyway. But,
yep.
So.
Jason said building his enclosure has kicked his butt. Well, Jason, from my experience, when you feel like the job is just beating your butt, it's probably time for a break and maybe work on something for a little while and come circle back around. Because frustration will lead to more heartache in my experience. Because once I make a mistake and I just get in my headspace and then it's a mess. So you may want to. This may be a good time for a break. Says woodworking skills are obsolete. That sounds like mine.
The don't as woodworkers, we tend to be perfectionists and we get in our own head that way.
Oh yeah.
And so I would that would be one thing I'd caution against is that you're your own worst critic, and sometimes good enough is better than perfect because it makes you move forward into using it. It's actually an interview question I like to ask. Is it better to be good enough and on time or perfect and late? And it's interesting to hear people's responses to that. But I'm my own worst enemy in that. And anything I've made off the CNC or the laser or whatnot, I go, yeah, here it is, and people go, oh, that's great, that's awesome, it's wonderful. I'm like, yeah, and but this and that and the other thing, and it's out of alignment, and this isn't sanded right, and that, and they're like, I'll be honest, I didn't see any of that. It looks great. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was at a crawfish boil last night, and I had been working out here in the shop before I went, and so I already had the black tumbler, that I did. That I did an engrave on it, and everything turned out great. But it was when I first got the chuck, and I didn't measure it right, or I messed up somewhere, and so the logo is just slightly thinner than it is tall. And I forgot last night and took it with me, and I went to a crawfish boil last night. And somebody saw the cup, was like, man, that's awesome. That thing looks good. Where did you get that from? And I'm like, oh, this is one of my mess up cups. And they're like, what? But because they didn't pay attention to that.
Right.
Because you do have the optical illusion of, circles don't look like circles on tumblers. And it wasn't that noticeable. But to me, I was like, man, I kind of hate I brought this thing out because people are going to be like, oh, look at that. But yeah, people, we are our own worst critic, I think. So it's but it's good to be that way, especially when you're trying to sell products and stuff. But
yeah, and then I'm that way on anything I'm sending out. I've remade things. I've even with the lenses I sell, there are some that come through the process and I go, I mean, I know it's good, I know it's usable, but I'm like, I wouldn't want to I'm thinking about the person on the other end going, they're going to see that little imperfection. They're not going to like it. So I'm put that into my
You put that in your
seconds bin.
personal use bin.
Yeah. So I do tend to be that way, especially when it's a paying job or whatnot. But sometimes we have to get out of our head because even the paying customers are going, no, it's great. I think it's wonderful. I don't have any problems with it. So yeah, at some point you kind of got to have to go, it's good enough, move on. I'm going to use it. And maybe I'll change something the next time I go around, or you only learn from it. You don't learn it if you're perfect all the time. You're never learning anything.
Yeah, I was fixing to say,
you don't learn from your mistakes.
The stuff that I've learned, everything I have learned has been because I screwed something up really bad, and I don't. The next time I go, wait a minute, I can't do that because the last time I did that, it cost me $5 for a blank or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, Anthony, he skipped right through the security up there. We try to keep the Northerners out from up here, but it doesn't always work. So he slipped through, but no, he's actually, to be honest, other than the weather and the food choices, I mean, I think he actually kind of fits in here pretty good so far.
Well,
so I mean, we went. We had people trying to sit with us at the Peach Park. We were eating lunch. They were just coming up, wanting to sit with us. And I think that kind of took him for a loop. People were speaking to us. And as we were walking into the restaurant, everybody's just like kind of, hey, how are you guys today? And I don't know if where he lives, folks are that, friendly and forthcoming, but he definitely got a dose of Southern hospitality today with some of the people we ran into.
So there's the term Minnesota nice.
Yeah.
And the joke is it's anything but.
So what you saw at Peach Park today was not normal from your experience?
No, I shouldn't say that, but I think Minnesotans tend to, they keep smaller circles. That we're less about it. We're less likely to greet you and open you in, but once you're in the circle, we don't let you go. So a Minnesota goodbye, it can be 2 hours and like 5 times of saying goodbye, right? I've been down here a few times as well, and so I get used to it's been a few years, but no, I wasn't taken aback or surprised by it. And I like to think I'm an approachable person.
Well, that's true. You kind of cheated because you have been through this area and into Georgia before, so
yeah.
So it wasn't total like culture shock for you.
Now, when I go to Florida, all bets are off.
Florida's part of Florida where you're going is just kind of an extension of South Alabama.
Wow.
I mean, so it's or South Georgia. It's not going to be that big.
Because we get a lot of news up in Minnesota about a Florida man enter weird topic.
Yeah. Now we have discussed the differences in some of the legal processes that are here, and it is different on some aspects of the way Alabama is, and some of the laws and that type of thing. But for the most part, I think I could actually bring Steve in, and people would know he was from somewhere up north because, like, what's the one guy said when he said something? I thought you weren't from around here, and he's like, "Oh, I could tell that when he talked."
Well,
I thought Steve.
He looked at my hat and he's like, "What's TC?" I said, "Well, it's Minnesota Twins." And he's like, "Oh."
The guy said, "Yeah, he's not from here." And the guy's like, "Oh, I could tell that when he opened his mouth or something like that." I was like, I thought Steve was going to get him. Oh,
yeah. No, I'm the one with the accent here, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely were the one with the accent. And I don't know where that guy came from. Sharon says she got a new 2 trees enclosure. I hadn't seen their enclosure, but I have to look at that. It made my eyes water. I laughed so hard. I'm not crying, guys. Like it really, you had to be there. You had to see this 80-year-old guy kind of bullying Steve over here around because he is. I'll tell y'all this, guys. Steve is definitely tall because we were going into the motel earlier to make sure that his room was fixed, and I swear I thought the door closure, the little bracket on the door closure, I thought it caught him in the top of the head. So he is a little taller than me, no doubt.
Yeah, I have had I've had a few times where I've bumped into those things.
I've been trying to find somebody with a Mini Cooper. I wanted to get a picture of you sitting in the seat of a Mini Cooper.
Okay, no joke. So my wife and I went. A friend of mine used to work at one of the local car dealers, and it was great because if there was any time a car we wanted to test drive, he'd just toss us the keys and say, "Go have fun." He should not have tossed us the keys to a Mini Cooper.
Oh, did you fit?
I had to put the seat forward. I slid it all the way back, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm too far back." So I had to move it back. And I have, those little smart cars
Mhm.
that like look like they're half a car, and there's no
Yeah.
back seat. I've sat in one of those. I've driven one.
I mean, you fit in the
I
F-150.
fit in that
but
better than my friend's 65 Corvette. I can squeeze into the front seat, but I could not operate the pedals because that seat is too close.
So. My wife says she thinks you could fit in here better than I could up there, which is probably true. It's probably true.
Depends on the crowd.
Until y'all tried to feed me that soap fish or fish soap or lutefisk. Yeah, I'd have to come back home then.
Well,
Minnesotans have no accent.
Oh, we have an accent.
Oh no, they definitely don't sound like they're from Alabama. I'll put it that way.
We've got long O's. Minnesota.
Yeah, what's that? A.
Well, that's more of a Canadian thing.
From Canada, I think.
I like to throw that in out there.
Right?
Hey. But don't ask me for any don't you knows.
Yeah.
The whole so Fargo. First off, Fargo, North Dakota. It's not Minnesota, but no one talks like that in Minnesota. Well, very few people talk like that in Minnesota. Some do, but they're not from. We don't claim them.
I can see why. Did you tell me you did learn that there's more armadillos in Alabama than there is out in the Midwest? Did you, Steve? Steve's got to tell you about the armadillos right quick, and then we'll get back to some lasers.
Yeah, no, I got south of St. Louis. I think that's where I really started noticing them. And I mean, there's roadkill everywhere, but up in Minnesota, it tends to be deer and raccoon, things like that. Squirrels everywhere. I'm driving along and I'm going, oh, that was an armadillo. That's weird. And I've seen them before. And then it's just, I think for probably a good 60-mile stretch, I was halfway counting them going, I think I'm seeing about 5 to 6, 7 a mile.
Yeah.
There's just these armadillos just sprinkled along the sides of the road.
Yeah, and you would think those would be in Arizona or somewhere, right?
Yeah. I messaged Carla. I was like, it's disturbing the amount of armadillo roadkill there is along here. It's like, I didn't think they were that far north, but
Texas. I told him, Mark, about you can't miss the things either. If you try to straddle them, when you get right above them, they're going to jump every time. South Carolina does have a lot of skunks. You drive through there and be like, whew, what is that smell? And they tend to get hit. Yeah. They tend to get hit on the street a lot too. But yeah, where's our laser questions? So we have got off. Speaking of squirrels.
James is asking, what do we think about enabling and setting a fast white space setting for jobs?
Depends on how fast you're talking.
Well, I think it depends on the laser too. Yeah. Some lasers do not handle that well, and then you start seeing your images getting skewed and your things getting out of step. So it's one of those things I think it's good to play with, because definitely if you're doing a lot of engraving and it does have a lot of white space, it can save you a lot of time. But I would test it on your specific laser a number of times before you go putting it on some expensive piece or something that you're worried about ruining. So
expensive.
Yeah.
I run mine, and a lot of times I'll run mine at like 150. 150 is a good. Most machines can handle a 150 white space scan. I mean, it just gives you a little bit of a pep, but not enough to where there's a whole lot of bouncing and banging and vibrating. Because I have found machines that do not like fast white space scan at all. Yeah. Like it will make it sound like it's falling apart.
Yeah, and I think it's if you're doing jobs for hire or you got a timeline, definitely play with it. Otherwise, it's one of those things where if you're not in a rush, you're the retired person just having fun, don't push it. Don't push your laser to the max. Don't run everything at high. But definitely if you're in a production thing and you're trying to sometimes that 10 minutes you save on a job adds up after you're doing 15 of them. You've saved yourself a couple hours. So
yeah, Mark's saying that anything over 6 inches per second, which is 152 millimeters per second. Hey, good job doing the math for me, Mark, because I'd have blown a fuse. But he said anything over 152 millimeters per second on his X tool skews the image, and that's kind of why I try not to stay. Like I said, I don't go too crazy. The X tool, I don't usually run. About the fast I'll run is like 100 millimeters per second on the 20 watt. But usually I try to go, well, maybe like 50 or 100 more than whatever the power is that I'm running on the machine. The O'Tour, even the Atom Stack, the Acer, they handle that extra speed a little bit better. But then you still have the risk, especially with the heavier heads, of causing some slippage or something like that.
Yeah, so that's getting up around 9,000 millimeters a minute, and so that's kind of getting to your on even the X-Tool 20 watt. I think that's kind of the upper limit of what I even run a job at for engraving and such. So, running your white space above that can cause some issues and such. So, there's
I like the millimeters per second better.
I don't
see the sense in all the zeros. It makes no sense.
Well, the whole idea there is that since you're running it slower, it gives you more granular adjustment, because going from 300 to 325 to 350 to 400 in millimeters a minute is a lot better than going from like 2.2 to 2.3.
And if it was,
it's all just math.
Yeah, if it was an old like 1.5 or 2 watt machine, then it would probably be necessary to have any adjustment at all. But now that we're up into 30 and 40 watt ranges, 20 watt ranges, I think you kind of at that point where it's almost time to switch back over to
so millimeters a second is definitely more in the CO2 world, and then X-Tool for whatever reason chose that, so that's become popular. But a lot of the others, are stuck in millimeters a minute. When you're talking CNC routers, I started out inches per minute. So unfortunately, it just comes down to math. I mean, they're all the same. It's just being able to do the math. So when I got the X-Tool, I was, millimeters per second was what I was used to with my CO2. I started with that, but I started struggling when talking with some people. They're like, well, wait a minute, my machine does this. And so I actually kind of shifted to like, okay, I'll work in millimeters per minute.
I've got to where I try to put both.
Yeah.
When I can, when I'm writing it or something, but when I'm talking about it,
Yeah. And as Brian puts it, 600 millimeters a minute sounds better than 10 millimeters a second. There's some psychology
it sounds like
to
you're
that.
faster.
Yeah.
It sounds faster.
But
when it's really not, it's exactly the same speed.
So, the 10 millimeter lenses for the Acer, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that. One thing I'm also going to play with is, and I was looking at mine versus the replacement X-Tool ones. I don't know why Acer went with the smaller lens. Because the dimensions are the exact same as the X-Tool. It's smaller, but it sits in the same spot. And so I'm gonna one of these days actually swap out for one of my X-Tool ones and see if I notice any difference.
Yeah,
because there are aftermarket sellers of those brass sleeves, and then if you can use a larger lens on there, I don't know why you wouldn't. It gives a little more surface area and such. So.
It may just come down to the fact that they bought a batch and that's what size they got.
It could be. Know. So I don't know that I'm going to tool up to cut the smaller lenses for that. I know SculptFun also has smaller cover lenses, so I should compare those as well, and maybe I can find something. But
if you get those brass rings, like we were talking about, maybe to where you could just have like
for the
whole ring out
for the Acer, that would work. SculptFun has a whole different setup to theirs, but they do provide you in their newer machines some replacement lenses that are just the lens part. So, we'll have to see. But
that'd be an interesting video to be able to test that and see and check it out and see if the brass knobs are interchangeable. Because let's say that you had an old 5 watt X-Tool and maybe you just bought yourself a new 20 watt Acer. Well, it would be awfully cool, especially if it was a damaged, your older machine was damaged or something, if you could reuse that ring on your Acer to give you more flexibility of the size of the lenses that you use or whatnot. So that would be something interesting to see.
I just wish they were, Mike starting and I taking over selling those lenses was really just out of a necessity thing, because when they do offer them, they're offering the whole thing with the brass sleeve and the glass lens, and that's wasteful.
Yeah, for a lot of money.
And then they're asking $15 for it. Plus, I mean, you're after shipping, you're paying $25-$30, and so I needed something that's it's just a piece of glass. That's really all. I mean, and there's people who do the mineral glass and they do the coated, and that's fine. to a degree, but the coating's going to wear off as you clean it. And really, you don't want to do anything to impede the transference of that lens, but it's just there to protect your focus lens. It is a consumable. It should be as cheap as possible. It should be as easy to replace as possible. Yeah. And that's where I was at. So, hopefully, and James is saying he's got an X-Tool lens on his P20. So that would be the thing, is maybe what I need to do is talk to a couple of those guys that make the brass ends and either get a bunch myself to just be able to offer them.
Yeah, you could offer. Well. You could have, or, this is your standard kit, and this is your like adapter kit.
Yeah, if you've got one of these, here's my lenses, and for this much more, you can do that. But
yeah, Brian said if we only knew somebody that had a bunch of different machines that they could take the brass knobs off of and try them on others.
Yeah,
we'll keep our look around. Yeah, we'll keep our eyes open, Brian. See if we can't find anybody to do that for us. Sculpt Fun, you've got more experience with them, because all I've got on Sculpt Fun is I got one little tripod machine that I've had, but that's it.
If you're talking about the focus ones in back that lock the head in place, I haven't looked for them. I would love to find some, if nothing else, that have a bigger knurled head on them. Especially on the 20 watt that I'm working with now. They're just too small and they have to hold up too heavy of a head. I actually almost started a job, then I noticed the head starting to slip in my hand, so I went back and tightened them down again. That is one of my biggest complaints about the Sculpt Fun machine, is that they've got on their standard ones, there's two. On the third, or the 20 watt, there's four, which you can't even use all four of them if you need to drop it down as far as you need.
Are they like thumb screws?
They're thumb screws, but they're on the back of the module. And they're small. They're not big.
Yeah, you would think if you knew somebody with a 3D printer, you could build a file and maybe like.
Well, the whole thing is aluminum, and I don't know. They did just the heads on them should be bigger. I really like the Atom Stack for the one in front. Even the Acer, it's got the that knob on there. It's huge.
The Acer.
There's no missing
Acer
it.
one. You can definitely grab a hold to it.
Yeah.
Even if you, let's say you don't have a lot of grip in your hands because you're like me and have like carpal tunnel, or if you're a female that doesn't have a lot of grip strength, you can grab that thing and twist it, and you're going to get it secured easily. So I do like that. The Atom Stack and Sculpt and Acer probably have the best securing mechanism of a lot of the machines so far.
I would agree with that. They don't bite into a dovetail and cause it rough it up.
It doesn't cause the device to twist as much, because it's like some of these, you tighten it on this side and it causes the module to rock to one side or the other, or like you said, you got to have three hands to be able to do it, because you got to have one to hold it up and then the other two to tighten. So I like Atom Stack and Acer's that big security knob better than I do a lot of them.
Yeah, and Jack's mentioning that there are folks like King Gubby that sell Z adjustments, and I get that. I don't like adding extra stuff to the head of the laser that needs to move around. It, if you're adding a plate, now you're going to lose a little bit of distance, front to back, and it's more weight. And sometimes it solves an issue. I hate having to add more to it for something that just should be kind of.
Well, now I will say that Kentalk has the little Z-axis screw, adjustment screw.
Yep.
The ASMR P1 has it.
But that was designed into it. These are aftermarket add-ons.
Those are nice. And I think as progression and the evolution of these machines goes, I think everybody's either going to come up with the knob-based adjustment or even a power-based adjustment. I think that's I think that's where we're going to be in the next.
Yeah, the next series seem to be having that kind of autofocus and Z adjustment on there. So, but yeah, I agree on the tool, the focus tool. It's just a aluminum rod that is very easy to lose. On the latest one, and actually in the video that I'll hopefully get out in a few days, one of the first things I did after I dialed in my 1/8 inch material settings was to cut a holder for that tool to sit on the front of the laser. I mean, it's going to disappear otherwise. So,
if it's not attached to that head, you're going to misplace it.
Yeah, the flip down tools are awesome. I'm glad when lasers have that. So,
yep. Yeah, that was the only complaint I had with the Atom Stack is I was like, how much trouble would it have been? Just the little kickstand, or better yet, two kickstands, one on one side for engraving, one on the other side for cutting,
Well, that's one
and
thing
then have it cheat down, like
that,
2 or 3 millimeters or
that's one
something.
thing I do like about the Pro Series of the X Tool is that they've got your surface focus kickstand and lever on the left side, but on the right side they've got the module adjustment with the scale to say, okay, you want to drop it down 2 millimeters. That was a smart thing that they did. I like that.
Yeah.
So
it took the guessing work out of it, because before they did that, I was actually just kind of kicking the kickstand out at an angle to drop it. What in the world just landed on me, Steve? We've got critters.
I didn't bring them with. They're all frozen and dead up north.
But yeah. But that's the one thing that I will say. I'm surprised more people haven't replicated that, especially with the way these lasers are, because everybody's stuff usually looks like somebody else's, it seems. But yeah.
So Anthony was asking. I knew there was one. Engraving pictures on 1/8" basswood. I don't think it's a type of wood, because basswood it's usually fairly white and clear, and actually a good material to use for engraving it, as opposed to even the Baltic birch. It has a lot of grain in it, and it's light, but you see it in photos, whereas a good sheet of basswood should be fairly clear.
Yeah, basswood's almost like a bar of ivory soap. It's just clear of any kind of lines or knots or anything usually.
So yeah, I guess first off, do your material test to kind of find. You're looking for that spot where you're just barely getting a mark at 10 or 20%, and that's going to be your low mark. And then you want the high mark to be dark and consistent, but not overly dark, to where it's getting too deep of an engrave. And those are kind of the numbers I'll go with. So, on a 20-watt machine, that's probably going to be something like in the 6,000 to 8,000 millimeters a minute range, and 20 to 90% power. From there, then it's playing around with the image mode. And so I tend to use Stuckey or Jarvis a lot versus, grayscale and newsprint and things like that.
Yeah, one of the biggest things with the images is what you do before you put it in Lightburn, or what you do, use in Lightburn to prepare it before you try to burn it. One big thing, Anthony, you're going to have is you're going to have contrasts. You're basically going to try to draw that picture with one crayon, is what it boils down to. Is the only crayon that you have is a black or gray or brown or whatever color you choose to make the dark color of your engrave. Everything from that point down is just a matter of less power, but you're going to have to figure out those settings. And like I said, a power speed test is the best way to do it. And once you figure out, okay, this is as dark as I want it, and so this is what I'm going to set my power to, that is the highest power setting that's going to be used for that picture. Everything from there down is going to be your white colors, which is basically just going to be less power. So Mark said he made Jason's want to know if you have experience with 3D printers.
Yes, I've played around with 3D printers for a number of years, starting with the original Printer Bot kit and other kickstarting. I'm trying to remember, there was a small cube, M3 cube something,
Maker cube or something like that.
And then on up to, I've had a number of the Ender 2 and 3s and such. So yes, experience. I'm not as.
Say, you're not guru status yet.
Well, I find them useful at times, but there tend to be more fun things and more tchotchkes, or hey, I need this simple jig, and where I focus more on my CNC and my lasers for really making things. But so yeah, I have experience with them. I wouldn't say I'm as knowledgeable about troubleshooting and really dialing them in as I am with lasers and CNC routers. But yeah, definitely I've played around with them for a number of years. So
no, you warned me that they could be very frustrating at times.
They can be, yeah.
So,
but
I'm planning on getting into one still, though. I'm not going to be scared off.
So, the focus. So Mark talking about focus shims. That's a good point. Is the factory focus settings can be off. And so doing a ramp test can help you dial that in. And that's simply taking your material, setting it at a slope that your laser is going to travel in a straight line across. And then you're looking for the point where it is at its finest point. And then you know that distance from whatever your mark is. So the nozzle or the module or something, you take that and you can make then tools from that. And then from there, you can actually say, okay, if this is straight focused at the surface, I can make an adjustment to say, okay, well, if it's 6 millimeters, I need to, subtract 3 from that or add 3 to that, and then you can actually make a stepped focus tool for different thickness materials. That makes it a lot easier. But
yeah, that's what I do for a lot of the machines that come with the little, they come with the cover on them, and the only way that you can focus them is with the cover on. So typically, I take the cover off as soon as I get a machine, and so that's what I do. I go in, I do a ramp test on it, and once I do that ramp test, I come up with the height from at that point, the height from the surface of the material up, and then I'll just make me a little, some type of. Usually I try to make mine to where they kind of clip onto the module so that you can raise it and lower it. And then once you get it lowered, you can slide it off. But yeah, I prefer actually double checking at least the focus, if not making my own focus tool.
Sure. Yeah, Jason. So the Creality Ender 3, it's a good 3D printer. It's very popular. There's a lot of support out there for it. There's a lot of mods for it out there. Biggest thing is to learn getting your bed level and then dialing in the distance it needs to be. The key thing is with 3D printers is getting that first layer down. That if you can get that, you're going to be halfway there. From there, it's then playing with figuring out your temps and your speeds and your, some of your extrusion settings and such. But the biggest frustrating part is just getting that first layer to stick down. Once you kind of dial in where your machine needs to be for that, then it gets a lot easier from there.
Yeah, I've been doing some studying. I do plan on getting one, but haven't decided on which one yet. I kind of,
well, if you
I
want,
like the Crealities. I'm liking what I'm seeing with the Crealities, but there's so many variants right now. They've kind of confused me a little bit with all these variants because it's like, okay, which one is, let's just stick with like 1, 2, 3, 4. So that I know 4 is the newest one. But when you start going like 3 version 1 Neo, 3 version 2, but I get confused.
So, well, they're also a lot of them are just variations on a theme, so similar but different kind of thing. The Creality Ender series is a good budget 3D printer. If you want far more trouble-free, you're going to pay for it. But the Prusas, the Bambu Labs, they're the Prusas, I think $800 is kind of the start for those. And then on up, and then the Bambu Labs, I think they're like $1,100 or $1,200 on up. Great printers, but you pay for a little bit of that. So,
yeah, I appreciate you, Brian. Yeah, guys, if you hadn't already, hit that like, subscribe, share button. It looks like most everybody that's commenting and stuff is regular faces. But if you haven't joined our laser engraving community group, you can do that as well. I'll drop the link for that into the video. And that's all you got to do is go find that group and you can join that. And myself and Steve happen through there pretty regular to kind of check in on things. And there's a lot of other guys on there that are very knowledgeable, by their own experience or by research that can help you at times if you have a question or have one of those things that's kind of putting a whooping on you and you just want to call a friend. It's a good group to be a member of because we have lots of guys in there that have lots of experience. Some of these guys are commercial operators and commercial folks, like the one person with the 22,000 watt or 2,200 watt machine. I mean,
yeah, it's all levels.
I just want to go see that.
A lot of levels of experience in there, and we want people to enjoy it, be able to feel comfortable asking questions, sharing what you're doing. We do try to keep the pure commercial.
Yeah.
Hey, I joined the group to try to sell you something. But I mean, if people have something they want to share or sell, and you're a member of the group, and you've given and you've asked questions, we're going to let that that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of
But
guys, they like to share things that they made, and
yeah,
it may be one of those types that they may actually make a little money off of it, and that's not a problem. But don't do it every day.
yeah.
Don't
I
do it 2 or
mean,
3 times a day.
if you're sharing about this thing and you've developed this cool thing, you want to sell the plants for on Etsy, great. We all do that. We all try to share, but we're just asking people to try to give more than they take, kind of thing. So, but
yeah, like that whole drop your logo here for
yeah. If the first thing you post in the group is send me money or try to connect with me, you know, at a business level, then we're probably gonna ditch that. So
yeah. But guys, let's see what else we got going on here. Trying to catch up with all these guys talking about Airwolf from the 80s.
I asked Carla. This is a few years ago. I commented something about Airwolf, and she's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Do I even know you? Like, how do you not know Airwolf from the 80s?"
Did she know Knight Rider?
That's another good one. I actually found all that whole like was it 2 seasons of that maybe? Yeah. I found all of them online at one point and rewatched them. And
what I find.
Or no, I was thinking Nighthawk. It was the motorcycle one. You remember Nighthawk? I know Knight Rider, but Nighthawk was one I was thinking of.
Yeah, but what I think is funny is like Knight Rider. You saw he had the big watch, and he's like, "Kid, come pick me up." Yeah. And now people are actually like, "Hey,
Tesla, come
me." Yeah. So it's weird. It's weird how technology has grown, and that's why I keep telling people technology is it's multiplying and accelerating at a rate that a lot of the other things that we take for granted since the Industrial Revolution, I don't think there's anything that's moved as fast as technology has in the past 20 years.
No, there's I can't remember, but there's a term for the doubling of knowledge and how that the curve of it is just crazily getting super steep. So, Keith is asking, he's new to the world of laser engraving with so much to learn. How do you find your focus as to what to do? Me personally, anytime I'm learning something new, it helps for me to have a project in mind. And so that might be, I need to make a simple box to hold tissues.
Yeah. And so I got my little boxes.
Yeah. Or your boxes to hold equipment. I pick a project that's going to mean something to me at the end. I am horrible. I'm a hands-on learner, but if you give me a random lab scenario that means nothing to me, you might as well just be lecturing to me at the same time. I need it to be like, there is a purpose to this end result.
Well, a lot of people are like I said, most people are like a reward based. Mm-hmm. And that reward is, hey, I need something to hold this, or I want to make that, or I want to do. So you got to find something, first of all, that keeps you motivated. Because you're going to need some motivation at times with lasers. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there, guys. If you haven't done a whole lot of it, you're going to need some motivation. You're going to need a break occasionally. You're going to need to walk away occasionally. It's going to happen. It's not a question. It's like my dad used to tell me when I was learning how to ride a motorcycle. It's not a question of if you're going to crash. It's just a matter of when. It's going to happen. With lasers, it's not, as I could tell my buddy Clown the other day, it's not a question of if you're going to destroy something that you're trying to create, or if you're going to mess up a project for a customer. It's just a matter of when. It is going to happen. Be prepared for it. Always buy extra blanks. And when it does happen, don't get frustrated. Learn from your mistakes and just keep pushing forward. I mean, persistence will pay off, because there's things all over here that are mistakes that I made, and I just turn them into like test cups or test pieces or test cutting boards or whatever.
BTUs.
Yeah. Take BTU. If somebody gives you lemons, you make lemonade. They give you apples, you make an apple pie. Whatever.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to fail and be okay with failing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just gotta pick. I gotta pick 1 or 2 projects and work on them and figure out what I learned from there. For me, eventually, then it becomes like how the creativity of it. How can I put a different spin on something? So
okay,
that
I'm gonna have to point something out real quick.
What?
Okay, Jack in the Shop. Let's see who else. Jack in the Shop.
Brian.
Brian, yeah, y'all's nerd is showing. So you might want to cover that up. Your nerd is showing that you knew that that was Moore's law.
Mark as well.
Oh, yeah, there were several of y'all. Your nerd's showing. Okay. Just a
The
lot of guys actually throw that out there. So y'all are a bunch of nerds.
well, yeah. So there's the technical learning how to do something, and that's sometimes just jumping in and be willing to fall off the bike until you figure it out.
Yeah.
But then there's the more design and the inspiration side of it, and that's where in both scenarios, finding someone that can mentor you or someone that you can bounce ideas off of, both from the learning how to do something, but also the getting inspired of to to bounce ideas around or get some ideas of what to do once you kind of know, okay, I know how to make a box, but now how do I make a cool pretty box?
Yeah.
That's where finding like-minded people, and that's
like I said, a lot of times, like the laser engraving group that we have, there's some guys in there that do some pretty cool stuff, and sometimes I'm like, hey, you know what, that was a great idea. I should try to make me something like that.
Yeah, there's that, or there's like makerspace groups or crafting groups or whatever you have in the area. Sometimes it's nice getting those tangential areas where they're not doing your laser thing, but they're doing whatever it is. I've had we were talking about farmers market earlier. I've had some really cool conversations with people, beef farmers and spice growers and such, talking about my laser stuff and what they would do with it. And so sometimes it's just, walking around talking to people like that, and you can get some ideas of what to do, and they might become customers or collaborators of some way.
Oh yeah. And that's like we have them. Well, first of all, Brown Thumb Nursery. Yeah, good to meet you. Hopefully, hopefully we'll meet again soon. But yeah, we have a group of folks. It's the Merchants Association of Clanton. My friend May, she and I are members of it, and we kind of like just go in, and everybody kind of brainstorms and comes up with ways of helping each other, like businesses helping businesses, basically. Like if there's a product that you sell that I need, then as two local businesses, we're going to try to work something out to where we can basically kind of help each other out. And one of the guys in the group the other day, I don't know if you saw the acrylic little card holder for gift cards that I made. One of the guys was like, "Hey, can you make this?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, never really thought about it, because the one he showed me was like a DoorDash or something, one that was made out of the heated and bent acrylic and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Well, I suspect that I could make something similar that would work, and I'll try to make it." And so that's when I come up with a design and took it and showed it to him, and he liked it. It served the purpose. It works, and so that's one of those things that's what I like. I like for people to kind of like challenge me, like, "Hey, can you make this?" Because that's when it's really fun. Because at first you're like, I don't know if I can or not, but then you have that moment. It's like, wait a minute, that worked, and so that part to me is what's the most rewarding. So just pick a goal. I mean, just like with anything, pick a goal and set it for there. Jack said there's also coleslaw, but it's made with shredded cabbage.
It is. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And Mark said he screw up a lot, and I do too.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to mess it up, and being a father, I've had to have that conversation with my children so many times. Like, hey, no one was perfect. Was able to do anything the first time they try it out. You're gonna fail before you figure it out. So let's keep going.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're right though. You gotta just like, I've failed enough today. I'm gonna go have my tea. I'm gonna go sit down.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to go pick one. You got to go do something that you can win at to restore your self-confidence.
You need to have a win, or sometimes it's even just walking away for 15 minutes. You come back and you look at it and go, well, of course that's why it didn't work. So you got to be willing to step away and give yourself a breather. So
yeah, Brian, that file actually turned out pretty well. If you use 3mm acrylic, if you use black acrylic, you can do it on a diode relatively easy. And that's why I chose black acrylic for that. And I'm working on a local connection of getting me some 4x8 sheets of black acrylic so that I can do more of them for sale. There was a few things that I would like to have done to the file, in hindsight, once I made sure it worked, and that was to take and round the edges and maybe even throw like some cuts in there, like some designs and stuff. But you can modify that file accordingly. The hardest part was to try to get that half a box to stick into the other part, and basically building boxes and tearing the files apart and putting them back together into the larger form. But it worked pretty well. I liked it. It snapped together tight. I used just some regular tacky glue, which I wasn't sure was going to work with acrylic. I need to find me some acrylic specific glue.
Yep.
But the tacky glue actually did work after about 2 days of drying. It took forever to dry.
Yeah. So I think, what is it? Weldon? There's an acrylic glue. But I will caution you that certain acrylics, especially after it's been lasered, if you try to glue that edge to it, sometimes it causes some cracking. So
it just dries it out or something.
Well, it's kind of a chemical fusing of the plastics is the way it's doing it, and sometimes the way that works after it's been lasered, there's fractures that it cracks. So you might want to play around with it a little bit.
The tacky glue worked from what I can tell. It hadn't fell apart yet, so we'll see. The only thing I thought about was maybe I could just drill me some tiny holes in there and like put some pins in it or something. But I was like, what, I'm just going to try glue and see how that works out. Worst case, I'll get some super glue. So we'll see. A quilt retreat coming up. To bring the ladies.
Yeah, Philip, I don't know. You've probably all left already. It's good seeing you here. And yes, I do know Fireman Bill. Bill, I've known him for a while, so I'll try to say hi to him when I see him over there. I may actually be going through his neighborhood on my way back. Who knows? Maybe I'll be able to stop by his house after hanging out with him for half a week.
Yeah. Well, Brian, I had to get acrylic paint. I've never been really a painter, but a lot of the jobs that people were wanting required me to get some acrylic paint and paint things, and so all those little small things of paint got on my nerves, and so I actually made me an acrylic caddy to put them in, to keep them organized and keep my colors the way I like them and all that.
See, and those are the good projects that you're going to learn on.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you need, and so don't be afraid to jump in and just start doing a little of your own design work. And after you figure out how to make a box, how do you make a box with ring separators, that fit the paint bottles and such?
See, my go-to cheat is that I figure out exactly how big of a boxes.py do I need.
Yeah.
And then I go get that file, and then I do whatever I have to do to modify it and take parts of it and use so that I don't have to sit there and try to do all those tabs.
Yeah, no, I mean, another good way, as long as they allow it, is to take someone else's design and modify it to yours.
Yeah, that's really easy. That's a lot easier.
That's a good way to learn. That's how I learned a lot as a kid. Is like you take something apart, you're going to kind of figure out how it works. Now, hopefully, you can put it back together and actually make it work. But
I used to do a lot of those little remote control cars that way.
Yeah.
My dad said that he was going to start buying the broken ones and giving them to me because it would save a lot of time for me having to break them.
Yeah.
But, yeah. All right, guys. Like I said, if you hadn't already, like, comment, share, hit the subscribe button, follow, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Steve and I, we really appreciate the support. I know we've seen some good things. Had a lot of guys that, we see the same guys week after week. It's pretty cool. I think it's pretty fun. You gotta go Fire Stick and watch the big screen. Anthony, you should put YouTube on the big screen, guy. But thanks for joining us. But yeah, you can get that app and put that thing on the big screen if you'd like. But yeah, any more questions, y'all let us know. But if you hadn't already, hit those buttons. It helps us out.
I am, we've had the tease of spring and summer already.
Mm-hmm.
And of course then winter keeps coming back knocking, but I am really itching to get out in my shop. I want my larger shop. I want to kind of deconstruct it a bit. I want to move some things around. Finally get one of my diode lasers extended, and do some playing with that. So I'm looking forward to that. But every time I think it's coming around, it jumped to 90 degrees and humidity. I had to quickly uncover my air conditioner and make sure we were switching over from heat to cooling, and then it's almost too hot. I mean, I went from trying to warm up the shop to like trying to make sure it didn't get too hot, and now it's flipped back to cold.
It's trying to give you weather whiplash.
Yeah, it's been a season, and every time I turn around, they say, "Well, we almost hit the records for snow," and then all these cities like Duluth the other day, 134, 135 inches of snow this year, snowiest season on record. It's just been ridiculous winter.
Well, I think we set a new record for snow here in Alabama this year. We didn't have any, so
okay,
yeah,
that's
nice. Pretty much. We've set that record for the past 2 or 3 years. No snow. So my wife actually doesn't like it. She would love to see snow on Christmas, and so one of these years, maybe we can get somewhere to where it's going to snow on Christmas. But I'm telling you, I'm the type I could drive to Antarctica to go see snow on Christmas,
and it wouldn't
snow.
Well,
that's my luck. I mean,
so
I know technically, guys, I know you can't drive to Antarctica. I'm just saying. Throw that out there before Brian calls me on it.
So everybody. I like fall. Fall's a fun time. It's usually too short, but it's nice when we still get October. And about Thanksgiving time, it's like, yeah, we can start having some snow here, and everybody loves it. All the decorations go up, all the light displays, and the ice rinks.
And then it snows so much you can't see your direction.
Well, there's been some years recently that we've wondered if we were having a white Christmas up in southern Minnesota and such. But yeah, then January hits, and we're like, okay, we're done with this. You can turn it off, but. It started in October for us this year, and it's going. Yeah, it's like 7 months of it. This has been ridiculous.
No thanks. No, he didn't. He didn't break my little soundboard, guys. I did leave it in the house because it's kind of hard to surprise him with the sounds when he's sitting here watching you push the button.
I don't believe you when you say you tweaked the volume every week.
Oh, I did. So I would show you that I've turned the volume down, except for that one. That one I just flat forgot about. But yeah. Yeah, flights are in Antarctica getting cheaper. Chris, I can't handle. I don't think I can handle Minnesota, let alone Antarctica, because if something really bad happens, there's nowhere. I mean, you can't just keep walking south or driving south. There's nowhere. So, but yeah, Brian said you got to make sure your Halloween costume fits over a snowsuit.
There's a lot of Eskimos.
Do you actually have a snowsuit? Like you have to actually have a snowsuit, or is it just like a heavy jacket?
Well, I'm the type that just goes with layers. But no, I mean, as a kid, yeah, you had your snowsuit because you go out and play in the snow. Mm-hmm. So you got sometimes they're the snow pants, and then you put your jacket over it. Sometimes it's a one piece kind of thing that you zip up.
Like one of those guys on the ski slope with the little jacket with the big pants.
Yeah, I don't ski, so.
I was just curious. I mean, I've never had a snowsuit. I've never had snowshoes.
Well, see, now you didn't.
We don't have snow tires.
Now you didn't.
Y'all put snow tires. Y'all got winter tires and summer tires.
If you really, I mean, the unskilled people, I just get tires that are all season.
We just got mud rips.
Now, so you can't relate to the winter moon boots, these big winter boots that you'd put on your feet, and then you had to put your because they would soak up so much water, you had to take the old bread bags, you'd stick those over your socks so your socks would stay dry, and then you'd slip those into the moon boots. Yeah, that was
now when it does snow here, and as a kid I do remember having to put garbage bags on my feet to keep my socks from getting wet. But that was like twice.
Twice. No, the snow can be fun. It's just after 7 months of it, you're kind of.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Snowmobiles around here are really cheap.
Why would you have one down here? Did someone forget to unload it before they moved?
I don't know. You probably because you don't have a need for them.
So when my dad moved to Arizona from Minnesota, he took a lot of his stuff down there, and a few years later, he's like, "Hey, you want to meet up in Denver? It's about kind of the halfway point for us." He's like, I got some stuff. I'm downsizing. I got some stuff for you. And one of them was 2 sets of cross country skis. And I was like, well, what?
He'd been skiing the sand dunes of Arizona.
Well, no, he had used them up in Minnesota with us, but somehow they made it down to Arizona with him. And he's like, I guess I really don't need these anymore.
No, Jack. The good Lord had a little bit of a field day with me when I was a kid. I am probably the most tenderfoot person in the world. I don't do barefoot. I can't. My feet will not take it. I can't even walk on a dirty floor barefooted. It makes my feet hurt. Like if I walk on a sidewalk or something like that barefooted, I just can't. If you could take my boots away from me and put me in the middle of a gravel driveway, and I'd be stuck. I'd be like on an island, and like it would be like shark infested waters. I can't. Oh, there's been a few times that something's happened outside, and I went outside without shoes on, and almost didn't make it back in the house because my feet do not allow me to be barefoot. So, windbreaker one time a year. Yeah, Texas is one of those places that probably doesn't get you and the landman, Chris, the landman from the land down under over there, probably our two warmest viewers there. But yeah, guys, it's getting better. Pretty comfortable in here. You'd see you didn't need that sweatshirt after all.
Yeah,
Yes, it's gotten down to like 50 something outside, but we're climate controlled now, guys.
I'm jealous. My shop is not quite as it's well insulated, but it has those temperature swings. When it starts getting really hot and gets really cold, I hit those extremes. But I might have to do something about that so I can be more consistent. I said, I got to finish that table and chair set for us. Get those out of my.
I would offer to let you use my AC guy, but I don't think that travel is going to be covered.
I don't think I want to pay for the the mileage on that one. So
I don't think that'll happen. That would be expensive.
So you've got some shows coming up in June, right?
Yes, the entire month of June. We will have the first weekend in June. The city of Clanton, the Chilton County area, peaches are big around here, and so they have what they call the Peach Festival. And so the way they're doing it this year, they're starting off the first weekend in June. We're going to have like a downtown vendor type, booth type event, which I am gonna go. I'm gonna set up. I'm gonna take the portable clack shack with me. I'm gonna be doing some on the location engraving, as well as have some of my already made products with me to sell to people. And try to make a little pocket change, help pay for the tag for the trailer. I mean, since I got a trailer, I got to have, a way of taking stuff there. And the rest of that week, I think maybe the second, third, Friday nights, I'm probably going to be at those events, but I'm still kind of on the fence about whether I want to do an event every single weekend.
Right.
Because I still have grass to cut. I still have, other things to do. So I'm going to play that by ear. But I do know that the very first Friday in June, I will be in that downtown. They're calling it the City Fest, I think they're called it. What is it? The Peach City Fest or something like that. The city of Clanton and the Chamber of Commerce, which is coincidentally where my wife works. They kind of work together with the Merchants Association and have this set up. The Merchants Association helps with getting the vendors and getting people up there to kind of make this thing happen, and then the city will work with like entertainment. They have a band and stuff like that. It's in the entertainment district, so there's a place you can go in and get yourself an ale or whatever, and just kind of walk around and shop and see the vendors and stuff like that. That's going to be pretty cool. And then at the conclusion of the month of June, we have the Big Peach Jam, which is the largest event of any kind in our county. This year, we're going to have Nico Moon. He's a country singer. I don't know if, really don't know what music I know you've listened to country all day today, but Nico Moon is going to be there. He's going to be playing, and I'll have my booth set up at that event as well. Hopefully in a good location to where I can kind of like see the music or hear the music and talk to people at the same time. But me and Klein are going to be set up there. He's volunteered to help me at those events, and we're going to sell some of his stuff as well. And that way, too, when people walk up and ask questions about lasers, normally it's me and maybe my wife or my daughter, and people always want to ask those technical questions. Like they think that Steve's sitting there with me, But with Klein being there, Klein is to the point now to where he can answer most of the questions, Sure. So he's going to help me with that, too. But yeah, Clanton is the name of it. Clanton, Clanton. But yes, we have an entertainment district. It's more or less it's just to define this for you. It's basically the 2 or 3 streets in town that you can walk down the street with an open container of alcohol that was purchased inside that area and not go to jail. But you got to make sure you don't pass those signs because there's only certain areas, and the beverage that you're consuming must have been purchased by one of the businesses located in that area. So that's kind of the caveat. It's basically a place you can go and have a drink and not have to worry about going to jail for having it in public or whatever.
So you've done a few events in the past. You've got your portable clack shack and such. What would be your recommendations for someone? They're kind of comfortable with their laser. They've maybe made a few things, but they want to try an event to start growing and getting out there more. Maybe, what would you recommend they maybe do? Maybe, some expectations to have for that. What would be your recommendations for someone doing like maybe a 1-day event like this that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, first it's going to depend on what time of the year. Because like we all know, Christmas, when Christmas is around, ornaments and Christmassy related themed stuff is definitely a plus. This time of the year, of course, we've just got past Easter, so you kind of missed that window. There's a lot of markets with like things that can coincide with graduations and event type stuff. But the good performers year round here in my part of the world, and like I said, this is going to be different because, like you said, up where you live, a stove cover, people are like, what's that for? Whereas here, I actually sell a lot of those.
Yep.
So you're going to have to learn your market. One way of doing that is like going to like shops, these little shops that sell maker type stuff, whether it be like a flea market or a home decor store. Go into Hobby Lobby and places like that and see what they've got like 100 of and see what they're sold out of. Those are good indicators for your market, your area. If you don't have anywhere else to go, you can go in Hobby Lobby, and if you see there's the shelf and it's got certain things on it and it's empty because they've sold them all, then that's probably something you're going to want to look at. But cutting boards right now here in, like I said, in my geographical location, cutting boards are coming up. The bamboo stuff, I always kind of looked at the bamboo as being, cheap, not really wood. It's kind of a grass. It doesn't burn all that great. And I was like, it's not something I really want to get into. But lately, I guess it's caught on, and people actually like the bamboo. I guess maybe because of it is pretty durable, and it is a more what do they call? How do they call it? Responsibly sourced material, I guess, because it
sustainably
grows back.
Sourced.
So that's the word. That's the word, because it grows back so fast. So I guess maybe with the newer generation who are conscious of those type things, maybe that's why bamboo is kind of becoming more acceptable. But the bamboo cutting boards are actually selling pretty good, and any of the other cutting boards still do pretty good as well. But I was actually shocked by the performance of the bamboo as opposed to some of the other materials.
Yeah, so you made a good point about going and visiting stores, and if possible, I would recommend someone maybe go and attend one event just as a customer first to see, talk with other vendors there, maybe ask them what they might be into and such. Or if you're willing to, maybe the price point is low. My recommendation would be bring some inventory that varies from your cheap, whether it's keychains and whatnot, to don't be afraid to bring the big expensive piece, because maybe you sell, but the chances are it's more of it's going to draw people in and they're going to see what you can do. But then also don't be afraid to price don't try to chase the price down to make sure you sell it. The customers you want and the people that are looking for this stuff, they're willing to pay something for, even though they're lasers, but handcrafted or personalized type stuff. That's why I think those bamboo cutting boards go well, is that if it was just a bamboo cutting board, they'd be like, whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that it maybe has a local, picking on whether it's your town, your county, your area code, making some products around that always tend to go over well.
Yeah, anything, and people will pay more for something. Like I said, if they see a bamboo cutting board in Walmart, for instance, that's just bamboo, like you said, that personalized engraving, that thing that's on it is what's going to add the value to them. So, but yeah, one thing that I will say too is your first event, set the bar low.
Yeah.
as far as your expectations.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of learning curve. One thing that I drastically underestimated my first event was how much traffic I was actually going to have, and the fact that one person cannot keep up, especially if you're like me and I'm trying to engrave things, and then I've got people walking up and looking at other stuff, and I need to be actively engaging with that customer, going, "Hey, well, what can I do for you? Hey, look at what I can do. These are what I make. Here's a business card. Take that with you." Those are things that I should have been doing, but
Mm-hmm.
instead, I'm over here with my head in light burn trying to fix this cutting board, and customers were just walking up, and they were looking at my stuff, and they would just walk off.
Yep.
Sometimes they would take a business card. Sometimes they overlooked the business cards.
Yep.
And so that was a lesson that I learned: is you need enough help to where, be prepared for there to be like 3 people, 4 people, sometimes more, walking up to need to be at least engaged slightly, so that you keep their attention.
Definitely.
Because one thing that I did notice is that my booth like drew kids like moths to a flame, because they'd walk by, they'd see the laser working,
Yeah.
and they would come. And the good thing about that is when the kids showed up, who's right behind them? Mom and dad. And of course the kids like, "Mom, Dad, look, I can
Yep.
get my name on a keychain."
Yep.
And that's the kind of, but you got to be able to interact with those folks.
Yeah.
The keychain stuff, doing it like on the scene, that worked out pretty well for me. But having to carry, if you're not been able to do them on this location, you're going to want to stick with like phrases, or
Right.
like maybe Minnesota theme, or whatever. You're going to want to have something that is going to be custom to them, to that
Yep.
particular group.
Yeah, and you touched on a good point there, is that a lot of it is more about selling you as the maker than your product. Once they kind of interact with you, they get to know you, and they start asking a few questions, then it's going to be really easy to, they're going to, hopefully they're like, "Hey, I like this person as an artist, a maker, whoever, I want to support them. Let me grab something from them. Or I have a really good idea they can help me with." And now you've got a custom piece. So James was asking, and you touched on it a bit, running a laser at an event. And he's asking more specifically using a generator.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, as long as your generator is creating, clean power, that, your computer and your laser are not going to want high spikes and
And
dips
you're
in
still going to
voltage and
want to
such.
have some type of surge protection and backup, in my opinion.
Yep. But you touched on another good point, is you don't want it to take away from you being able to, unfortunately, be the salesman.
Yeah.
And interact with people.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was another thing. Like I said, being able to do the stuff there was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to have somebody else with you, or at least be prepared to. And this is what I had to learn, is because when people would be like, "Hey, I want this, but I want this on it," and I'd be like, "Well, come back in 20 minutes." Well, I changed that to like, "Come back in 30," because it never failed that every time I'd start to work on it, somebody else would walk up.
Yep.
And so I learned that I would need to just stop that. Get involved with these people, let them do their business, and as they walk off, then maybe try to go ahead and get that started. Because the engraving stuff actually draws people in, like I said,
Yep.
seeing the machine work.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool to, it's that wow factor for the kids or even adults and such that are like, "Oh, that's really cool what it can do." So you got to kind of play on bringing in some help, and maybe you have a friend who's a really good salesperson. And I know some people who they might be decent at selling stuff themselves.
My wife could sell you anything, I believe.
And if you have someone that's willing to help you out, and pay them, or do something nice for them in exchange for that, but maybe that's their thing, is to help sell your stuff and sell you as a maker, so you can focus on kind of the technical side, or do the flip. Get someone that you can train to say, "I need you to at least monitor this, and here's how to do the basics," so that maybe you can jump in for a few seconds, get things set up, and then let them monitor it while you do that. Having that second set of hands and eyes is really helpful.
And like I said, that's like my buddy Klein. I mean, I went around asking everybody that I was friends with. I'm like, "Hey, you want to get in laser engraving? I can help you make a little side money. You can spend your nights and weekends watching a football game and babysitting a laser."
I think that's called a dealer. You get them the first one for free.
Yeah, well,
got them hooked on it.
And it's worked out. And now, I have somebody that can help me, and he gets the benefit of having a cool hobby that, I help him, because I mean, not many people, there's some guys here that would love to have my cell phone number, so that when something goes bad, they can be like, "Hey," because that's what he does. And of course, most of them message me, especially I've seen quite a few of them that message me a lot. But it's mutually beneficial. And like you said, find a buddy that you can take with you. It's beneficial. Like I said, my wife, Brandy she can sell stuff. That's what she's done her entire life is sales, marketing, and that type of thing. But when they go up and they go, well, how does this work? That's where she's like, I don't know. It just does, So,
Sure.
so it kind of needs to be somebody that can do both. And if you can get a good salesperson and somebody with some technical knowledge, then you can just sit back and be the boss. That's how that's supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
Just sit back and watch.
Yeah, and
But,
Dave mentions he's got a booth at the Renaissance Festival, and interacting with people is the most important thing he sells, and that's so true. Is if you just kind of sit back waiting for them to approach you, it's going to be a boring event for you and such.
Oh yeah,
But,
you did it right when you get home and it's like tired.
You're tired from talking,
So
and
you get tired.
So, and Brian's mentioning, there's sometimes craft fairs. This is where doing your research helps, and maybe talking to the event coordinators, because sometimes the good ones are ones where they're like, we want to make sure that the bulk of what each vendor sells is something that they had a hand in making. They don't want the resellers or the MLM.
Yeah, a lot of the places here they tell you that.
I've seen a lot more go that route, and that helps out quite a bit. To make sure that you're going to be in a realm that the people that are coming there are looking more for that kind of that unique, handcrafted, customized, artistic kind of thing.
Yeah, so. Well, but here's the one way we're looking at it too is that don't sell the same thing everybody else is selling. Make yours a little better.
Yeah.
Or even if your product's the same, make your presentation a little better. Make it a little more eye catching, and it's a balance. And I'm learning it. Like I said, last year I did several events. The first couple were not very successful because I didn't know exactly what all I needed to take with me. I forgot a lot of stuff because you know how it is when you're trying to pack everything and you're like, oh, I got to hurry. I got to be there tomorrow. So inevitably things got left behind. And then there was some things that once I got there, I had some problems with. And so the first 2 or 3 events was more or less developing my system and developing, this is my kit that I take with me. And now I've got it to the point to where pretty much everything that I need is in the trailer. And so I hook to the trailer and I roll out of here. Now, I do have the benefit of I've got extra machines that I can, have there to keep from having to take them in and out. But yeah, that's one thing is you want to definitely go over, what do you have with you? Went to one last year, got there, and it was one of those longer events, and I forgot to fill up the generator with gas, and I forgot to take gas with me. So, near the end of the event, all of a sudden my generator dies. Luckily, I'm on a battery backup. So the only reason I knew is because I start hearing my battery backup start beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, what's going on?
Yep.
So I go back and check the generator and it was out. Now, luckily, there was a plug in the flower bed nearby. And so I was able to plug into it. But yeah, it's, I use a little small, I've got a 2,000 watt wind inverted generator that's really, really quiet. And so far, every event I've went to, because a lot of events will tell you that you can only operate a generator capable of operation less than so many decibels.
Yep.
So that's something you got to remember too. Is some of them won't even let you have a generator. You have to have one of those little solar panels in the box like what you're testing now. That it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna be hopefully running that some over the. We'll see how the weather holds out. Assuming the weather's not too terrible, I'm gonna put the laser up under the shade tent. I brought some variety of material to play with and do some testing on this. I don't know. A lot of people are calling them solar generators, but they're basically battery banks with inverters and such in there. And those are. I'm hopeful. I'm curious to see how long I can run my computer. Now, this is probably not the computer to do that on because it's a higher wattage draw. You can definitely get
put that eco mode probably.
Yeah, this is where having like a Surface Pro kind of thing that can plug in USB-C straight to it and charge off that, so it's not going through the AC inverter and such to help maximize that. But I'll be curious about that, and I hope to maybe have some information out there in a video in the future on running these options for running your laser away from normal shore power for things like shows or travel and such. So I think that'll be it'll be fun to kind of experiment myself, but hopefully some good information for people that are looking at those options. And so,
Yeah, I've looked at a bunch of those, and I think it's cool too because like the one you had, you said you can charge it from like your car or your
yeah,
plug it in the wall or a solar panel. I mean, you have multiple
yep,
avenues to charge the thing.
hmm
That's going to be pretty cool. And one day I plan to take and add some solar panels to my trailer, and that way I can actually put like a battery and some charging ports in the trailer.
yep,
So it can charge up with solar, keep everything nice and charged. You know how those little credit card machines and all that. I mean, those things die a
yep.
lot because you don't ever use them. You go 6 months without using them, and then you get up at an event. You're like, oh, you need to pay with a credit card. Oh, wait a minute, my my little credit card reader's dead.
Yep. Well, haven't seen any additional questions come through.
So slow down.
So-
Everybody's had enough.
But it's these
They
2
better-
hours have flown by.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we've got to get you. We've got to get you back to the motel because you've got not too long of a ride tomorrow. You can actually sleep in tomorrow. Maybe do a little video editing after a while or something.
yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. I think it's just a little over 3 hours over there tomorrow, and then we'll see. And then I'll have to see about next Sunday. I should be at Chris's place, but I don't know. I might not be available. You might have to fly
Yeah.
solo for a week. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So
Well,
but we'll.
Or maybe you can talk Chris into
Well, we might have a guest.
Yeah.
If he's free, yeah.
you can just get Chris in there with you. Then we can do that. That would be cool.
So,
But Brian wants to know how you're enjoying it.
With this guy, well, the truth is he paid me to stop by, and I'm here for the paycheck. And no, it's been fun. The joke with my wife is that it's probably true for a lot of people. We meet more people. We connect with we find our people, our groups of people. The options are out there because of social media, YouTubes and such. We're able to find like-minded people easier than in the past. And so I often have my internet friends that I eventually go and meet in person. And so it's always kind of fun to make those connections but it's also like just a continuation of conversations we've been having for the past few months and such. But it was kind of funny. You come out here to the middle of Alabama, off the beaten track a little bit.
Yeah, get in a truck with a stranger and drive off in the woods.
And get a text from my wife saying proof of life check.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But yeah, I mean it is different. And like I said with me, I guess my wife says I'm reckless anyway. But I'm not afraid of much. But yeah, I guess it is kind of weird. I mean, you're all this way away from home, nothing about the area, and you jump off the interstate at this little exit and meet this guy that you think and it's like Steve said, it just seems like the makings of a really bad like horror movie, like banjo start playing, that kind of thing. But no, it's been cool. Like I said, I enjoy it, and we've talked for hours, after the lives and through Facebook, and we've compared notes and we've questioned each other. Hey, did your machine do this? And because a lot of times you get these machines and it either surprises you and does really well, or it surprises you and does not so well. And so it's cool to be able to go, hey, how did yours do? Or how did you? And so we've spent a lot of time talking about equipment and gear and stuff like that. But the fact that we might one day actually meet in person was really wasn't. I mean, a year ago I didn't think about that. And then here it is. So we're going to definitely try to do some more stuff. I've got, like I said, I'm kind of stuck first of next week and can't go anywhere. But I mean, I haven't ruled out if the weather holds out at the event over there. I wouldn't mind, riding over there and seeing some of the planes flying and seeing what Steve's up to over there. So we'll see. There may be more to follow. But guys, if you hadn't already, like I said, like, subscribe, follow, share, all that good things. But Chris said all his internet friends start that way. But
honestly, I think it's weirder meeting up for people for like Facebook Marketplace sales and Craigslist sales than, I mean, we've talked quite a bit. that's not as awkward
Yeah,
as
you have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it's not as awkward as
and you do get to see actual pictures and videos and photos of where I live to know that I'm actually a real person.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I it's far more awkward. I mean, I literally I met with someone. I was selling something on Facebook Marketplace a couple of weeks ago, and they came to pick it up at my house. And I said, "Well, do you want me to show you how it works really quick?" They're like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And so we walked back to my shop, which is behind my house, and we're there for like 15 minutes as I'm showing them how it all works. And we come back out, and the person that was waiting in the car with them was like, "Oh, good, you didn't kill him." And I'm like,
yeah,
what?
Yeah, I got a buddy.
I guess, but for them, from their perspective, I'm going to this random house, and they just take you behind back, and you disappear for 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, there was a while there that I tried buying a bunch of stuff on Marketplace to see if somebody would try to rob me, and I just couldn't get anybody to do it. Me and my buddy, both of us were tactical operators, and so he'd be like, "Hey, man, I got to go buy this, and you want to ride with me?" And I'm like, "Sure." And we used to joke, what kind of surprise is going to be on somebody's face when we show up to buy this thing and they're like, "Oh, you got you now." I mean, I imagine you find out that you just tried to hijack two fully armed tactical operators,
right?
that you met on that, but it never happened. I mean, we went all over the state picking up stuff, and it never happened. And nobody tried to rob us. It's strangest thing. But for all of you guys, Steve is actually. I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way, Brian. Steve's taller than me. His beard is longer than mine. Okay, but
I tried to shave so that it wasn't so intimidating.
Well, I got my summer haircut. I had a lady the other day ask me when my hair turned gray. I'm like, I don't know. I can't see it. I don't know. It's been that way for a while. But yeah, appreciate you guys. I don't want to keep Steve up all night. I do have to work tomorrow. My wife's going to be leaving me with the kids and stuff this week, so I'm going to have to get some sleep.
You might have to cook.
I don't know what I'll be cooking. Okay. We may be we do takeout. I don't cook a whole lot. If I cook, it's gonna be like some hot dogs in the microwave type thing. But anyway, guys, appreciate it. Glad to see you. I'm gonna try to get Steve back to the motel and make sure we get him on his way for his journey. And I'm sure he'll be updating us and letting us know. And then, like I said, if nothing else, Steve may or may not be here next week. But if he's not, I'll try to at least come up with enough Steve jokes that he'll regret missing it.
Yeah,
he'll be back next time.
I'll have to watch it and.
Oh yeah, there'll be jokes.
Yeah,
I may even go get me like a beard.
Oh, okay.
Like a paint on beard.
All right. Yeah. Well, it was fun doing this in person. Hopefully, it's not too long before we get to do it again. Maybe do some actual sawmilling or something in person next time.
I would have done it today, but when I picked you up, you looked about dead.
I was a little more tired than I thought I might be from it. So, but anyway, thanks everyone for stopping by, asking the questions, hanging out with us. It's always great, and hopefully I see you next week. If not, I'm sure you'll be in capable hands with Dave and here at the Clack Shack.
We'll find something to do.
Yeah. So we will see you soon.
Good night, everybody. Don't forget to turn the lights out.